Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm going to show you some of the plants and I'm going to go through them. When you have plants on a deck, which I usually have a plant room downstairs where most plants are, they are susceptible to the wind. I'll show you a new leaf. If you were on here yesterday, I was showing you this. This is a brand new leaf of the Bertrucciae, and the Bertrucciae leaf has got all these tattered areas. Now, whenever it's a new leaf, what will happen often is that you'll get breaks and tears. It's not going to be as thick as the older leaves that kind of harden up a bit. So that's just something that happens. And so the newer leaves are going to be more susceptible to damage like that. So that's just the price you pay for having plants on the deck and things like that are outside. But I'm going to go through each one of these plants and kind of talk to you about them a little bit. These are just kind of, I'll show you just kind of an overview of some of the plants. And there's a humidifier that I really like and some of the products that I use. Tons more plants downstairs, but these are just some of the main ones that I have on the deck. My really special, these are all special, but my really special plants are actually inside because I was just really, I'm spray painting something there, so just ignore that. My really special ones I have inside right through that door there. And they're ones like I've got Philodendron Red Anderson. I've got my strawberry shake that I really love. I've got a variegated Rhaphidophora, which is absolutely beautiful. In fact, do you want to go get I'm actually going to propagate the Rhaphidophora, the variegated Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. So I got to show you guys this because it's really cool. But I'm just going and I'm showing you guys some of my deck plants. And this may look a little weird to have a humidifier on the deck, but I'll explain that later. It's a great opportunity to kind of give that extra, on a dry day, that extra humidity that your plants need, and the plants love it. But sometimes when I put plants out here, they can get a little bit tattered, and that's okay. But here he has, I'll show you guys real quick here. So if you haven't seen this, this is a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma variegated. It's absolutely beautiful. I am going to propagate this. It's really just beautiful looking. It's unusual. I got this probably, I don't know, maybe like
6 months ago,
maybe something like that. If you love, and they call this mini monstera is usually the name for it, even though it's not a monstera, but I feel like they're always coming up with new variegated things, and so this is an example of that. I may end up selling these, I don't know, these cuttings, but it's really cool because you just don't expect a variegated Rhaphidophora tetrasperma. You just don't expect that. So it's really cool. I think it's beautiful, and Eki he teases me because I propagate a lot of stuff, and I always have the means, or not the means, but the intention to sell the propagations, but I fall in love with them and I can't do it. I can't give up with them. I can't give up on them. I can't let them go, all that. So yeah, he's like, you're not going to sell it. And I said, oh, yeah, I am. I don't know though. I probably won't. That's
Same
just the
thing
way
happened
it goes.
with our chihuahuas.
I just can't. I don't know. It's just one of those things, but isn't that pretty? That's super pretty. So anyways, but all right, well, let me go ahead and kind of go through. I'm just going to show you guys and do some informational things. These are the, if you're just joining in, these are the plants that I have on my deck. I have probably about house plants, or deck plants, we'll say now, a total of probably 2,000 plants total. And honestly, it may even be more than that because I have a whole plant room downstairs. I do a lot of propagations. And that doesn't even count my outside plants that I have. I have outside plants everywhere. That's that's where it all began. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the different plants and kind of talk about them a little bit. So this is right here, we have a Philodendron Black Cardinal. This is philodendrons in general are very easy, hardy plants to take care of in general. So if you're wanting to start off with plants and you don't know where to begin, philodendrons are usually an easy place to start. These little spots here, sometimes they can be EFN or extraflorillary nectars, which is not a big deal. But then you can also get rust spots, so just be aware of that. But this one's a overall pretty easy one. It's got a wide span, and it's always shooting out new leaves. In fact, there's one right there. You can see. Sometimes I'll stake the philodendrons up because they'll start leaning forward. So from a distance, you look like my friend. But anyways, I'll show you from a distance what it looks like. Isn't that cool? It's really cool. So, and then I've got the Patriciae, which is a very, very solid plant. It's also always shooting out new leaves. And I always think that it looks like some kind of like fabric or something sometimes when you look at it from afar. Like it just looks like some kind of gathered dress or something like that. But unfortunately, this newest leaf, just kind of makes me a little bit sad. When you see sometimes little spots in your leaves that look like that, sometimes that could be a fungal issue. So you can spray with a fungicide. They have concentrates on Amazon. So if you do have the tendency to get that, you might want to get the concentrate and you just mix it up in a water bottle and then spray it on those areas. You do have to be consistent with the fungicides because you can't just do one and done spray. Typically, I should say, I don't know all the products that are out there, but the ones that I use and a lot of the ones that I know, the fungicides, you have to use them over a certain period of time sometimes. And that's just similar to like, very similar to like even the fungicides like that you use on skin and things like that. So, but yeah, so you'll usually have to do this about 14 days or so or more. And then, yeah, you have to be consistent with it. And a lot of times when you get a fungal infection on your plants, that's often due to lack of airflow, if there's excessive water or excessive moisture. I know it's kind of weird sometimes when you have a humidifier and you think plants need humidity, but they also need a fan. That's why we always have the fan going, believe it or not. And I like when I see the plant leaves actually moving. That tells me that's a good thing. You're getting good airflow, because that's one of the reasons why you'll get fungal infections in your plant. Is because of the lack of airflow and also just excessive moisture and things like that. And also it creates environment for mold and such. Going on to the next one. So I've got a little aloe vera plant. This is one that kind of just was hanging out of a potter, and so I just did that today. Nothing too crazy there. I just like aloe vera. It can get really cool looking. And then I've got a cactus fern, which these look really cool when you get them really super healthy. I've got a couple of them. They really will look like exactly that, like almost like a fern. So I've got the hanging back there kind of a little bit. Then I've got, this is a Florida Ghost. So the Florida Ghost, I've got them all over my house everywhere. They love the terrariums. I've got like probably 12 terrariums, and a few of them, I've got the Florida Ghost sprinkled in with lights, grow lights on it, and they absolutely love the grow lights. This is not the lightest that it will get, but they'll get pretty light. And they'll revert pretty quickly. But the good thing is it comes back pretty quick when the lightness, the Florida Ghost leaves, they come back pretty quickly once you get them back to the light. That one I probably need to get on a moss pole. I've got a king right there. Got another, you see the king leaf. This one, the Veitchii, it just grows crazy. I mean, this thing is probably about as big as I don't know, it's big. So if you look at my hand, I don't even know if my hand can kind of, it's huge. And so this Veitchii is a stunner. It is definitely one. It's even got a little flower growing there. Now I will tell you that the flowers, it looks like it's got another one too. The flowers take a lot of energy. So sometimes if we're not going to be doing any kind of pollination, you can actually hybridize different anthuriums, which is the coolest thing about anthuriums. It takes forever, but you can grow seeds. So Eki, do you want to explain the process of growing seeds from anthuriums?
Yes.
We have, where is it? This one, I think this is one of them. Is this one? No, this one right here. Is this one?
It is.
Okay, this is one of the babies. I think it's one of the babies that he actually hybridized. So we have a Bessie, which is right there, and she's been around for a while, so she's got some leaves that I got to take care of, but she's beautiful. She's beautiful. So there's Bessie. Well, yeah, she's the he. So he, Bessie, he, and then the Forgetii. This one is kind of, you can see, not doing the best, although it's got another. We got another flower coming up, inflorescence coming up there. This was the mama plant, and often the mama plant, the one that carries the seeds, right, will end up, it's hard on the plant. It will end up very, very hard on the plant, just like pregnancy. It's very hard on the plant. But what you can do is, and explain the process.
Just like all fruit trees. Right?
Yeah.
Like when you have fruits on the fruit tree.
I don't know if they can hear you, so you may have to come.
Oh, here I come. Just like all fruit trees, you know, when they start to grow fruits, they it just takes a lot of energy from the tree itself. So this one, what happened is we took the pollen from the Bessier.
So, in other words, what will happen, and let me see if the Bessier has. The Bessier almost always has.
Yep, there's one right there.
Yeah, so
the inflorescence. So when the inflorescence goes through the female stage, and then it goes through the male stage. So the female stage is first. It starts to
dew.
It starts to make this dew. So the reason why the dew happens is so that pollen can stick to it. So that dew stage is the female stage, and then it goes to male stage is when it produces the actual pollen. So these two just happen to be in the right stages at the right time. The Bessier was in the male stage while the Forgetii was in the female stage, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Even looking at their life cycles now, look how far along this inflorescence is compared to the inflorescence on here, how new this is. So the timing of how these two plants, their life cycles on their inflorescence just worked out perfectly. So once the Bessier started to get the pollen, I took the pollen, rubbed it onto the on the the Forgetii's inflorescence, and then it we couldn't really tell if it took or not, but then it started producing a fruit that had seeds on it.
And then
we took those seeds and she worked her magic in like growing the seeds. I just did my like mad scientist magic of well, I guess you can call it mad scientist, or you can just call it like bow chicka bow bow.
Well, and so this is actually a Forgetii and a Bessier, what it looks like.
Yeah.
So it's a really
Beautiful.
cool thing. Yeah, it's a really
There's
cool
7 of
thing, and it's kind of one of those weird things that yeah, I mean, you grow the seeds. Now, it took probably a year to get them even to the point that they were at. Now they're big.
This is year 2.
And honestly, I probably...
year 2, like literally.
Yeah, and that's why they're so expensive. You know, when you think about how expensive these anthuriums are, that's why. They are really a labor of love.
Yes.
And you can hybridize with all sorts of different kinds. So it's really cool to see what you can do. So even the Anthurium luxurians, what you can do is, if you wanted to hybridize this with the Bessier, you could do that.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that with Forgetii, you could do that.
Yes.
If you wanted to do it with the... And this is the weirdest thing, that I always do this with the crystallinum. The crystallinum, I always just have to think, is that the crystallinum? I will show you a problem. Sometimes that happens with with just anthuriums in general. You'll get one leaf that will get spider mite prone like that. This has been treated, but it can get pretty bad. Sometimes I really want to cut it off, but once it's been treated thoroughly with the granules and also with the Captain Jacks, I usually will leave it on there, even though I'm so tempted to cut it off. But yeah, I mean, that's something that sometimes happens with anthuriums. And you know, you can see another one right here, which drives me crazy. That just drives me crazy. But this has also been treated as well, and with granules and also with Captain Jacks. But it happens.
Real quick. Also, if the inflorescence like timeline doesn't align up, you can save the pollen in your freezer in like a Ziploc bag.
Yes, and I think that's a great idea, because they'll sometimes, I won't even realize that there's an inflorescence. Like even right here, like look at this little tiny one. Oh wait, and this is the Anthurium templaumani. So putting that back in here, you can see like the little inflorescence. I think it's got, yeah, just one. But look how cute it is, so little. And this one's such a cute one. That would really be kind of a cool one to see what, maybe we should try to do that. Yeah, so anyways, so that's, oh, and it looks like it's got another one growing. So that's one way that you can do if you're trying to propagate anthuriums. Or make more, I should say. I guess another way that you could do, some people do like with the chunks, they cut it. That is not me. I am not afraid usually. I am not at all afraid to usually cut, to split things. But for some reason with the anthuriums, I get a little bit weird about that. So for those of you that do that, cool for you. That's awesome. You're amazing. But I'm just not that brave when it comes to anthuriums. I will maybe if I had some to test on, but you know, propagations for me, I really stick with as far as like cutting things, I really stick with the vining, trailing plants and things like that. So, what else to talk about? I've got this looks like a Florida, not Florida, oh my gosh, a white knight. The white knight is one that has a tendency to revert. It's a philodendron white knight. Yeah, it had the coolest leaf. You can kind of see the oldest one right there. It was just the coolest looking leaf, and then it reverted. But now I feel like I'm getting specks back, which is really cool. There's a way that I've done also. Yeah, see, there's a way that you can do it where you just go down to the lowest leaf, and then you just cut one node above that, or just above that. Then usually you'll start getting more white leaves coming out. I did this on that one, but it didn't really do a whole lot, and I had it in the right kind of light. But I do wonder if maybe I've got something going on right there that's coming out, because it seems like it's getting a little bit more of like speckles on some of the later leaves. It looks like I've got another leaf coming up too with the Chanterie. This is an Alocasia Chanterie, which kind of been expensive. I don't know if the place that I got it at just was really expensive, but it's kind of expensive for this one. And I think I've seen it for cheaper, but I got it for like $50, which, Alocasias, usually I feel like the variegated ones are the ones that are more expensive. Let me see here. I'm gonna make sure I'm not missing any comments. But yeah, so then I've got another anthurium here of some kind. So, the interesting thing about anthuriums is that you've probably, if you're not into anthuriums, you don't know much about them, you've probably seen anthuriums, the most typical one, and this is typically going to look like what you see as the typical one, even though it doesn't. I don't have any out here. I wish I had a picture of it, because then you'd be like, oh, that's an anthurium. They have almost kind of like, they have these things on the top like that, and then there'll be like a color and they have like almost like a rounder looking half leaf, and then this will be a color, like a bright color, like bright orange or bright red, and that's what people typically, they don't even realize they're anthuriums, but that's the most typical, and you'll see them all around. And the thing is I used to think, oh, that's a cheap looking plant, but really I really appreciate them now, because I know what anthuriums go through to do what they do, and so I just have this new respect and appreciation for those types of anthuriums, and this is one of those, but it's just a different variety. So as far as doing maintenance out here, so I got everything kind of situated out here. The next thing I'm going to be doing is a lot of repotting, which I'll probably bring you guys along for the ride. I'm also going to be, with the repotting, I think I want to start learning how to do pH measurements. And then also there's some, you have to be very careful with fertilizing too much, but also even down to things like using tap water. So I'm usually pretty good about that, but lately I've not been the absolute best. So we have a water conditioner that I'm going to be using, so I'm going to be using that a lot more often. And then I'm going to be troubleshooting to try to figure out, usually this is going to be a fertilizer issue right here, sometimes tap water as well. Some anthuriums are a little bit more sensitive to fertilizer and also tap water than others, just like any plant. But I'm going to start assessing and troubleshooting to figure out what I need to do differently on certain plants. But you're going to have, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. I mean, to the best of us, it's going to happen. I say to the best of us, well, it sounds funny to say it like that, but to all of us that it happens. Let me show you on this Columbiana. This is a philodendron. I was talking about fungus earlier. Hello, Sabrina. I was talking a little bit about fungus earlier, and you can see those little almost like spots right there. You can treat with a fungicide for 14 days, and usually that will take care of it. You have to be consistent with it though. I absolutely love the Columbia. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's one of my favorite philodendrons. I feel bad saying that because I love all my philodendrons. I don't have any specially favorite children here. I love them all, and I think that they're absolutely beautiful. But yes, this might be one of my favorites. But don't tell anybody that, though. Don't tell the others that. So, and then I've got the king. Probably my favorite anthurium. I get this question a lot from people. I really could maybe more go through. I can't really say what my favorite plant is. There's different levels of that, I guess you could say. I have like things that I like in particular for different reasons. So I could maybe go through the plant classes or the plant families and say, okay, I like this one a lot. I really do have a big thing about begonias in general because I think there's so much variety in begonias. You've got your Rex begonias, you got your angel wing, you got your maculata, you got the regular, just good old what we call annuals that we think of, which typically they'd all be annuals if you had them outside. But there's just so much variety in begonias, and so I really do, I guess you could say, heart that family. But as far as things like alocasias, they're a really good, sturdy, solid plant family. And so I absolutely love them just because of how amazing they are. They'll literally like just grow a leaf like overnight. I do particularly like my Bessier because even though she's not looking to, or he's not looking to, whatever Bessier is, this has just been a nonstop producer. Like, honestly, the leaves just have shot out, and I feel like I love this plant. This plant is just amazing to me. And, you know, sometimes we'll get leaves like that, and that's okay. But I do really like my luxurians, I think, because it's just an absolutely just beautiful, beautiful plant. And it makes me happy, and I like the thicker leaves like that. I do have a splendidum, Anthurium splendidum, and if you know about Anthurium splendidums, for those of you who do not know, I'll tell you a little bit about the splendidums. They're really cool. They almost kind of have like this texture. They look like an alligator texture, but there's something really cool about splendidum that doesn't even look like, it doesn't even look real. But it is the hardest plant in the universe to take care of. It's like it needs high humidity, but then it's like, oh no, I might start to wilt if I get too much humidity, and my leaves might start to like wilt away. It's just this craziest thing. And so like I thought mine basically was completely just not there anymore, and then I decided I'm not going to give up on the chunk. So now I finally have downstairs, I have a splendidum that's actually growing from that. Now it's just in very beginning stages. I didn't even know that. Yeah, it's upstairs. I have a splendidum that's actually growing from that. Now it's just in very beginning stages. I didn't even know that. Yeah, it's yeah. Nice. I kept the chunk from it, and I showed it to you 1,000 times, but maybe you weren't listening to me. Oh my gosh. But you know, I don't know. Anthuriums are a great one because I think they're kind of like a work of, they're like art, like really the true science of like plants, how crazy they can be, how you can hybridize different plants, and they're almost like people to me. I don't know, it's weird. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, Anthuriums, I do have a special place in my heart for Anthuriums. But I mean, I love alocasias too. I've got all my alocasias over here. Not all of them, just some of them. I was like, I've got the Cuprea, which is always really pretty. This one was kind of struggling a little bit. But just I have a silver dragon inside, and they're just really cool plant. I think that their leaves also look like they're fake. They're just really cool looking. Yeah, they're just really pretty and really solid. One of the things that I do notice that a lot of times, the thinner leaf, this is not a thinner leaf one, but the thinner leaf alocasias are more prone to spider mites and pest. And then the thicker leaves are more prone to what you'll see is like any kind of issues with tap water or fertilizers. You'll see that along the edges. And a lot of times you may need to repot them. That's just something that happens. So, but yeah, that's kind of what we see. And then the Frydek's absolutely awesome, amazing. This is a tiny, 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 tiny leaf for us. Usually they'll get ginormous, but this one is notorious for spider mites. We're talking like notorious. But spider mite city. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So high humidity, dusting off leaves. You almost have to spray the leaves on a regular basis with alocasias. Unfortunately, the Cuprea does have a tendency towards spider mites. I think this is just dust on there, but it might be spider mites. So I have to look at that. I have an Oslani inside that I'm protecting very closely. But anyways, this is a shrimp plant. This is absolutely beautiful. It gets really ugly during the winter, but then it gets absolutely beautiful once you put it out in full sun and it gets warm and it's growing back. And if you've seen these flowers on this, if you haven't, I'm going to show you guys. Make sure to follow along for that because these are amazing. It may not look like much now, but I'll tell you what. When you see these, they're just absolutely just the prettiest looking. They're just weird. I have got some, speaking of blooms, I've got some gladiolas downstairs. This is totally an 80s type plant. that is basically bulbs, and I planted them and they're blooming, some of them anyways. And it's got like a green flower one that's so pretty, and it's got like a dark deep, like almost like grape purple downstairs. So I'll have to show you guys that because I just think it's pretty, even though it's not like houseplants or anything like that. And then I'm a weirdo. I like to have even like plants that don't look like they're supposed to be, you know, I don't know. I need to repot this anyways. And then there's a Ficus triangularis. And yeah, so anyways, and then there's our land out there. I don't know if you guys have, I showed you guys this before, but it's a beautiful view, and we have these curtains up because these curtains are very helpful at blocking the leaves from getting damaged from sun, because it can get really hot on this, especially mid-afternoon, late afternoon. It can get really hot. So, but yeah, we're getting there. Yeah. And we've got an above ground pool, and yeah, so I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about the plants that I have out here, and I'll probably do individual. We took off the rug. We had like a outdoors carpet rug. We took that off and put it downstairs near our pool, on our pool deck, and so I'll probably start doing like little projects out here for you guys, and repotting and just taking care of these plants, because it's a never-ending thing. We did go on vacation recently, which I'll tell you, I know that's a big thing that people are really worried about, so I should probably do a video on that. But we did go on a vacation, and we were really worried that if we were gone too long, obviously we'd lose plants. And honestly, I'll have to give you some tricks about that, because we were gone for 7 days and everything. I mean, do you think anything looked
8 days?
8 days, and it looked really, everything came back not looking too bad.
But there were expecting like, oh boy.
Yeah, but the tricks that we did a lot of things to prep for that, I should say. Maybe not a ton of things, but we did do a lot of things. Like, for instance, we watered the same day. We watered, like, just soaked all the plants the same day that we left, the morning that we left, which sounds like a lot, but we did it, and it was I'm glad that we did. And then the day that we came back, so technically then it was really 6 days that they hadn't been watered. When you have them outside on the deck, one of the things that we had to do is obviously we pulled the curtains together, and even though it still filtered some of the light, it made sure that it didn't get too hot on the deck. And then some plants that were super susceptible to getting dried out, like for instance, even though this is an annual, this is petunias, that's just petunias. So actually someone gifted, I love just flowering baskets. I think they're beautiful and they make me happy. So, and this was gifted to me. So even though this is not a house plant, what I did, it dries out really easily. I do want to mention about that. I just put it basically in, I had like a little tub of water with, and I just filled the water up on the bottom, and then it just kind of soaked it up as it needed. There's other ways to do it too, which I'll go over, but I think there's a lot of options that you guys can do, especially if you're wanting to travel and you have plants. I'm seeing people get rid of their plants like crazy, which I have always been, everything comes in trends, right? I've always been someone that has loved plants forever, and I did obviously get a lot more plants over the years, last couple of years, but that's just always been me. I mean, I'm here when my team's not, I'm here for when my team is, I'm loyal. I mean, I just, but loyal to my soil. There you go. Loyal to my leaves. But it's kind of one of those things though, but you have to live life. And so I've seen a lot of people say things like, oh, my plants are not bringing me joy anymore, so I'm going to have a purge or whatever. And so that's, or a haul or whatever you want to call it, but that's perfectly fine. I mean, if you are, and it makes me a little sad, but hey, more plants for me, right? I have cut down actually way before the whole people started getting rid of the plants. I kind of cut down on buying completely just because I was like starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed, and I needed to come up with a system on how to be able to water all my plants a little bit better, because I have a lot and I want to take care of them. I do not want to get to the point where I'm not giving them the love that I need. It's kind of like animals too. Everyone gets in these like this craze to buy a certain type of animal, and then then they all of a sudden end up all going to the pound or getting thrown out, and that just makes my heart hurt. And so I feel like I accepted this responsibility. It's not that I couldn't say, hey, I could find someone to sell it to, but at the same time, I'm managing my plants better, and I will be putting some plants up on the shop to be able to sell, because I know a lot of people have requested it on here. So I'll be doing a lot of cuttings and things like that, just more or less to be able to.
Every day.
Yeah, we'll be doing that. So I did put some extra things over the last couple of days. If you guys want to check that out, but definitely. I am enjoying the plants that I have, and the nice thing is too, we just take our hose. It's still kind of tap water, but it does okay for the most part, but we can just spray off the leaves and all of that, and the plants seem to like it. So but yeah, well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign on off. You guys have a good rest of your day, and hopefully you enjoyed this live, what you were at least on here for. So make sure to follow along for more plant tips, and if there are any questions, shoot me a message in my inbox and maybe I'll do a video on it.